2021 roll call.
Budke,
Here.
Johnson, Kuhn,
Here.
Lunsky,
Here.
Matichek,
Here.
Reichert,
Here.
Sandy, Wasvik.
Here.
We have quorum.
Quorum present. Reading and approval of the minutes from the January 6, 2021 meeting. Let me know what you say. Mr. Reichert?
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Lunsky. Any further discussion on the minutes from last month being approved? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, minutes are submitted and approved as read. Public hearings.
Item 3-1, public hearing, replat of Lot E of the replat of lots A and B of the replat of lots 6 and 7, River Oaks Edition, located at 4722 River Oaks Circle.
Mr. Brooks.
Okay, I'll briefly take away the screen just to pull up the GIS for everybody, but I want to quickly show you where we're at with this this particular item. Here's Belmont Road, here's 47th Avenue South. Just to the east and I guess southeast quadrant of that intersection is the River Oaks Circle neighborhood. This was before you last time for preliminary. And that process is typically done. We come to the Planning Commission under preliminary, get your comments on it, and then bring it back for final. Typically, that's when we, if required, do the public hearing. In this case, this commission did request us to notify the neighborhood, which has been done, and I think there is some folks here, both in person and on Zoom. We've received some information through various forms electronically to us, and we'll kind of go through some of those, but also, as always, available for public comments when we enter that period. So I'll talk a little bit. Here's the location, the lot that we're going to be talking about. I'll stop this share and head into kind of a history piece that we wanted to share with you. So the original, this is that lot that we're going to be talking about. So hopefully everybody on Zoom can see this as well. We'll hit the slideshow here. So this is the lot. Here's River Oaks as it comes in. This was the original request back in, I think, late 70s. It actually got platted this way, came into play for subdivision of the area. The next phase, do my page down, was the city obviously had a flood, and we took the back half of that location for flood protection. And so this basically everything, here's your area that the city purchased out from those two lots, and this is now owned by the city of Grand Forks for the flood protection. The next piece was relatively recent. There was actually a shift in lot line here. You can see in this location. The owner of this property here sold off about 1,300 square feet to the owner up in this location here, and they straightened out the lot, basically connecting those pieces. And the final stage was the request now that's before us to now split that. So I've dashed that lot in that way to show what the current request is. So you see the full plat in the packets. The one thing that a lot of the comments that we received from neighbors in this area is that there was restrictive covenants that was put into play in, I want to say, 1990. And there was a desire not to have any of these lots split up. And we've let, a lot of folks aren't aware of this, but the city cannot enforce restrictive covenants. Those have to be done civilly by the neighborhood against any party within that neighborhood. So the city cannot use that as a basis for a decision in terms of whether or not to approve something. That gets us into a bit of a quandary legally to do that. So what we've done is we've evaluated this on how this fits the zoning. So in this case, this area is R1 zoning. The split of the property does meet our R1 guidelines, our requirements. And so from our perspective, in terms of staff and what we have to look at, it does meet. And I will state, some of these lots may be smaller, which does technically happen a lot along the lots that are backed up to the flood protection system, similar to some down here, and I can go up in this area. They typically are smaller, but in the past, that those have typically been kind of spread and headed back to the river. I'll share again the screen showing the air photo, because I think that does a pretty good job too, showing a lot of folks. So in this area, here's that piece that the city owns. There's the bike path as it rises up to about the level of the dike. I think top of is probably in this area here. I don't have an exact on this, but it's probably somewhere in this area here. And I'll kind of leave it at that. From our perspective, again, restrictive covenants are something that we can enforce. But that's the reason our recommendation from a staff perspective is to approve, because it does meet city ordinances. So with that, I can certainly stop the share and can reshare if anybody needs it during the question.
Okay, so there will be a public hearing. So first thing I want to do is kick it out to the commission, see if we have any thoughts on it or comments. Mr. Reichert, I saw your hand go up.
Thank you. Ryan, I just want to be clear. So the city isn't really taking a position on what the neighborhood's thinking here. You're just saying technically this is something that meets all of the codes and would be eligible essentially for approval. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
I think what I would say is the restrictive covenant issue is not something that we played into our thought process at all, because legally we can't.
I understand that, and I agree with you. I don't think it's our job to enforce private contracts. But as far as, we've received some negative comments from the neighbors. I assume that your department is not taking those into consideration. So you're looking at us saying, you guys make the decision here based on.
Actually, I guess I would say it's not that we don't take into consideration public comment. I mean, we certainly listened. We heard the issues, but what we found was, in this case, we have to follow the municipal ordinance in terms of lot size and those requirements that follow the zoning for the property. And, in this case, we kind of saw it as more of a property rights issue, that if the desire is to try to enforce those restrictive covenants, that there is a process to do that, which is not through our approval here tonight.
Okay.
So, anyone else have any words? I hear what Mr. Reichert is saying. We got to be careful what we do on this one, just because of like you said, it does fit everything that we've done and what we can. But we will open the public hearing at this time, and anybody in the audience would like to step up and address item 3.1, please do so at this time. And just, sir, step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, so Jonathan Geiger, 4718 River Oaks Circle.
Okay.
So we bought our place in 2003, so it's almost 18 years. We bought it for a reason. We bought it because it's a neighborhood that has large lots and large spacing between the houses. And we have a back alley, and at the time, the close proximity to the river was a plus. Now that the greenway is there, it's even a bigger plus. In the lots at question is a large stand of mature trees. So almost certainly by dividing it up into two, that large stand, that small forest is going to disappear. That's a negative impact on the neighborhood. It's a tight little circle. We applaud the city workers who have to maintain our road in the winter. They do a great job, but we've watched them routinely get stuck plowing snow around that circle. Adding 2 driveways is going to make that even worse. Where are they going to put that snow? And the other thing, the points I'd just like to make is that as an active cyclist who uses the greenway a lot, I'm pretty sure I can say with confidence that this would be a precedent. There would now be 4 closely spaced houses right on the greenway at that spot. I can't think of another area in that 10-mile stretch from the south end to downtown where such a thing exists. So in my view, it seems like a dangerous precedent.
No more masks.
And with the tightly spaced houses, I can only imagine that fences are going to go up. We don't have fences in the front of our houses. Fences along the greenway probably would not be an attractive thing. And so I think that for all those reasons, my wife and I, who's here, Donna Hastings, we're against it. It's not that we're against having a neighbor. We love neighbors. But having 2 tightly spaced houses at the end of the circle where we already have no parking on the road, and it's not unusual for us to get tickets on Fridays by the police doing their job, but there's no place to park. You put 2 more houses at the end of the circle, where are they going to park? Where are their friends and visitors and loved ones going to park? So it becomes a real problem. And so for all those reasons, we're against it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up. Yeah, please, would the developer be here tonight too, or no? Okay. Okay, please come up, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name's Gerald Muselar, 4726 River Oak Circle. Our property adjoins the property that's proposed to be replotted. I really just want to say I agree with everything that Jonathan already brought up. Putting 2 houses onto a lot that was designed for one will be a very different look and feel for the neighborhood. The neighborhood has large lots, large homes, very good spacing between homes, lots of trees. And if this replot was to go through, you would lose a lot of those trees, have 2 homes very closely together, which would be a very different look and feel than the rest of the neighborhood. First of all, I do appreciate that the letter was sent to us and making us aware of this, because we were not. As a neighborhood, we had very little time with busy schedules to get together, but we did circulate a letter just letting everyone know what was going on. And every single person in the neighborhood, with the exception of one house that had a conflict of interest, signed it, saying they were in an objection to this replot and were against it. For the reasons that Jonathan mentioned and I mentioned as well, I have a copy of that letter. If anyone didn't receive it, happy to circulate hard copies of that letter as well. But every single person in the neighborhood was unanimously against it. So for those reasons, I ask that you would reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else that would like to step up to the microphone? Again, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Kwame Eagleton. I live at 4714 River Oak Circle. We just moved to Grand Forks 8 years ago. We searched for a house for 4 years. We finally went to that neighborhood and almost immediately were drawn to it because of the beauty, and it's kind of a unique place in all of Grand Forks, and we've looked at houses all over. The lots are large, they have mature trees, and we think that changing this would change the aesthetics of that neighborhood, and we would like for it to stay as it is. some in support of Jonathan and Gerald, and we ask you respectfully to decline that replat. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to step up? Please, absolutely. Hey, we're so excited to see actual people. Come on up.
Amy Dallum, 4706 River Oak Circle. My husband and I moved in there in June of 2000. We're the second longest people on that street. And the reason that we moved there, again, we looked at all the neighborhoods in town, and we liked the openness. We liked our open street, our distance between the homes, the established neighborhood, the established trees, and being on the end, we have, we love our neighborhood, and we would like to see it as it is. We disagree with splitting it into two, and I agree with Jonathan and Gerald. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we're kind of stuck. I mean, when I look at it and go through everything, and I've read the letter and looked at all the stuff, and I don't know. I wish something could be worked out with the developer. That's why I asked if that person was here. I mean, we've seen a lot of miracles come out of working things out with the developer to get a look the neighborhood might want later, or something you guys can work out with them. The covenants is we can't look over, we can't do anything with, we can't enforce. We have to look at lot sizes and different things that fit into the city, and that's what we have staff to do.
Right, and it seems like that most of the people have bought this house and that lot has been empty since, when they did buy that house. So there always is that question, what's going to become of that lot, I guess.
That lot's been half under construction since I was a kid. We used to go shoot BB guns over there, to be honest with you. Mr. Reichert.
Yeah, I guess I look to the commission and to staff as well on this, because every day we have people coming in here saying, well, I wasn't expecting this to be built. I wasn't expecting this to be built when the zoning was R4 right across the street or something like that. But I think this case is different. And I think these people, when they looked at it, they could expect that this lot was going to be the size that it is. I think when we talk about changing a size of a lot or lot lines, we have to decide, is that something that fits in our plan? I mean, as planning and zoning, certainly it fits within the zoning. The question is, does it fit within our planning? This is a nice neighborhood. I think protecting it makes sense. And while I am always looking out for the developer, trying to make sure that, if land can be developed in a way that we should encourage that, I think we are always holding people to what their expectations should be. And in this case, I think to allow something that was so clearly going to be one lot to become two might be a little hypocritical of us. Am I thinking about that right or not?
I don't know if that was a question for me or the rest of the commission.
Rhetorical question for all.
Andrew did bring up too, there might have been, I want to make sure too that we got all the public comment. There may have been some on Zoom. I just want to make sure.
I haven't closed the public hearing yet.
Okay, perfect.
So I was going to make sure that when she brought up that list, I saw a whole bunch on the side.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I think the best way, we could, is there a way you can see it, Andrew, if somebody raises their hand or would like to address us on Zoom? I want to be very careful with that too and make sure everybody gets heard that wants to get heard.
Yeah, if they want to, they can just raise their hand.
I'd like to take the opportunity.
Please come forward.
Just make a note or statements to the folks on Zoom.
Or just start talking.
I think
Greta's, what's that? Yeah, please come to the microphone.
Yeah.
State your name, address, and stuff for the record, please.
Sure. My name's Skylar Ertman. I live at 5110 Chestnut Street currently. I'm the one looking to purchase and split this lot, so I thought I'd just take the opportunity to let some folks speak first, kind of get an idea where they're at. And to start, I guess, I thought I'd share, I've been a resident of Grand Forks for my entire life too, so I'm not new to Grand Forks. I lived here through the flood. My wife grew up on Barley Court, 2 blocks west of here, and my mother-in-law worked for the builder of that home that was originally there. So we do have some close ties to it, although I don't live in that circle now. You know, I consider it my neighborhood as well. I don't know where the distinction is for a neighborhood, but I live about a 3 to 5 minute walk from there. And I also routinely use the bike path and the green space in that area. The one issue I'm seeing is the entitlement that I'm hearing from the neighbors, the existing owners on this lot. I think there's more stakeholders here that aren't being considered. The one individual that's not here and chose not to be because I approached her to purchase this lot is Miss Russell. Miss Russell, she's owned it since 2010, I believe. She's had multiple inquiries to have this lot purchased, and she's decided to hold on to it. I sent her a letter out of good faith, asking her if she'd part ways with it. My wife and I, we have 2 kids and a third on the way, and we're looking to, create a life for ourselves and build a house in this area. And I guess I don't see, of course I don't see the issue. I don't live there currently, so not to underestimate or to wipe away the feelings of the folks that live there. But as I was speaking to Ryan previously this week, this seems to be more of a matter of facts. I guess, if someone decides to move into a neighborhood and they pretty much have this green space that's been there since they moved there, it seems like they all take advantage of it, whether by foot, visually, access to the trails. But I don't see anyone maintaining it that has spoken. So I think the common theme I'm hearing and fighting with is the entitlement to this lot that they all don't pay taxes on. And then also, my family is a stakeholder, obviously, and then also the family that I'm looking to sell one of the lots to, I think they're a stakeholder as well. I think it'd be hard to describe to someone why, if they've gone through the work to have it surveyed, work with the seller, work with the great city staff that have helped me along the way, how it could be denied if it meets all the criteria. So it seems like the criteria isn't so much a matter of criteria, but more just a matter of opinion when it comes to this lot. So what I also want to do is kind of take a minute to go through some of the information that was provided to all of us. This may be redundant, but I think some of these topics are worth touching on a second time. I guess I'm just going to flip through the packet here. I guess I'm stuck on what's factual and what's feelings, and that if the staff recommends this and it meets all the criteria, what does someone like me do moving forward? How do if I decide to purchase something somewhere else, what's the precedent for me or others like me? I think, that's kind of a hard trail to navigate, and I think everyone can understand that. What I was hoping Mr. Brooks would touch on is the covenant itself. I think there's been a bias created by the letters sent in from the homeowners in the circle. I was worried when I received the covenant, and I did have to hire an attorney, and the attorney assured me and also sent a letter to the city that this covenant has expired. For the covenant to be renewed, all existing landowners would have to be in agreement. And I guess, as Ryan stated, it's a private matter, but I think just the fact that the word covenant has come up, I think it's important to understand that Section K of the covenant describes that it has expired as of 2009. And if I guess if the then owners had the gumption or the forethought to put together another covenant, they would have done so at that time. If this lot in question is as important to them as they're describing it today. Another, I guess I submitted Exhibit 1. This is conversation between Andrea and myself in an effort for me to do my due diligences, you know, to make sure that this lot is buildable. I'm not coming into this lightly. I understand the fears and the concerns with the neighbor, but I'd like everyone to know I've made an attempt on my own to do all the due diligence required to meet code and to follow, you know, the rules set forth. As I flipped through, one thing that struck me kind of by surprise is when I did read the declaration, which is the covenant, it was provided to the city staff by Mr. Musler. And in doing my homework and having this lot surveyed, I used Mr. Musler's property as somewhat of a template moving forward. So I can tell you Mr. Musler's house, which is 4726, the adjoining lot just to the north, his setback of his house to the property line meets city code, but it doesn't even meet the requirement in the covenant. Under Section C, a front yard setback of not less than 35 feet is required. So I think it's important to note that if Mr. Musler did want to uphold the covenant, if it hadn't expired, he's not in compliance of it himself. And I guess that's the only property I looked into, and mostly just because he submitted it. So now I'm kind of moving on to the letter from Mr. Musler. And I'd like to extend a thank you from them for visiting with me. I forget the date, but after our last meeting, I believe Megan Sandy suggested that, you know, letters be mailed out to the homeowners. And I kind of took that as an opportunity to go around myself and visit with them on my own. And I spoke to Andrea about this, and I mean, it's just an opinion, but she thought, you know, that's a good idea. You know, introduce yourself, let them put a face to a letter versus, you know, just receiving something from the city that may catch them off guard. So I did just that on a Sunday. After the last P&Z meeting, I went around and knocked on doors and introduced myself and let everyone know who I was. You know, I'm not a bad person. I think I would be a pretty good neighbor, actually. You know, I've got young kids myself. I see Mr. Musler's got a beautiful family with four kids himself, and there are other kids in the neighborhood running around, so I can't see why a couple more kids and friendly faces would be a bad addition. In dissecting this letter from Mr. Musler, he describes that this would have a significant negative impact on the appearance of one of Grand Forks' most beautiful neighborhoods. And the problem I have with this sentence is that it's an opinion, and that's all it is. I don't disagree that it's one of Grand Forks' most beautiful neighborhoods, because obviously the amount of people that have turned out tonight are backing that up, and I do agree with that, which is obviously what drew us here. But it's an opinion, and we all have opinions. I think that's an important thing to note. Later on, towards the end of the first paragraph, Mr. Musler mentions that this lot split would provide for smaller yards. And that may be the case if you know, I think it's relative, I guess. Mr. Musler's lot is around 17,500 square feet. The one I'm looking to keep for myself would be 19,000 square feet. And the other lot would be around 14,500. So again, I think the word smaller is just an opinion. And then in the last sentence of the first paragraph, Mr. Musler states that there would be a loss of several mature trees if this were to go through. And again, that kind of brings me back to the entitlement. these lot lines, I'm unfamiliar with people having this sort of entitlement to something that's not theirs, and I struggle with that. I can understand it, that it's a benefit to them, but again, it's a benefit they're not paying taxes on, and they've sort of been reaping the rewards of for some time. And I would also like to point out that Mr. Musler, while he's done a great job to preserve some trees on his property, did have to remove several large trees to build his house. So again, I think just to remove the bias, I wanted to point these things out. And moving on, I guess the greenway has been touched on as, I assume, this lot being some green space. And looking at GIS, I mean, I can't believe that we're looking at this lot that's adjacent to the greenway, and we're considering a removal of green space as an issue, because these are butted up to the Grand Forks Greenway, where there are many trees, where the city takes care of it. And I guess where they have to go if they want green space. So I'll just move on if you don't mind. I'd like to address every letter from Gerald, or Mr. Musler, Mr. Geiger, and the following Mr. Krieger. So if I moved on to the letter from Jonathan Geiger, I guess I should also mention, when I met with Gerald and knocked on his door, he was very friendly. He let me in. Of course, he probably didn't know my intentions at the time. But these folks are kind, nice people. You know, everyone likes to say North Dakota nice, but, and they were. They invited me in, they were kind. I tried to treat them with respect, show them that I could be a good addition, and not look down on any of their concerns. So, after I spoke to Mr. Musler, I kind of worked my way around. And I made my way to Mr. Jonathan Geiger's property. His was the last house I met with. And I'm moving on to the letter that he submitted. It's the third paragraph. I've highlighted some notes for myself. And Mr. Jonathan Geiger states that the residents of River Oak Circle are unanimous in their expectation that the restrictive covenants agreement remain in force. While this may be true, if unanimously they do want to maintain this covenant, they're missing one piece of the pie, and that is Miss Russell. Like I mentioned before, she has a stake in her property. So unanimously, the folks that live there might feel that way, but Miss Russell, as a stakeholder, does not agree. And again, I guess the touch on the covenant, I guess the new information that it has indeed expired. It's basically not a point of contention.
Let's keep wrapping this up. I mean, we're kind of in uncharted waters that we can't really do anything.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm attempting to do here is take the bias that's been created and show you that I've taken and done my own due diligence to meet with these folks. I met with Jonathan, and he actually asked me if I would purchase his house. Much did two other people in the circle. And I think that's important to note. And then Mr. Jonathan Geiger mentioned the influx of new fencing that could come up through this. And I'd like to note that Mr. Musler, Mr. Geiger, and this fall, Mr. Krieger all have fences. I'm not sure where, the fear of fences comes from, while they all have fences. I'm just confused, so. And he, again, touches on the small forests and mature trees that are not any of theirs. The last letter was from Greg Krieger, and he basically touched on the same things. There's more opinions here. The one thing that he touched on that I think was important to mention in his last sentence of the second paragraph is that he thinks this will affect the aesthetics of the community, which I suppose is Grand Forks, and I would disagree with that very kindly, but he thinks this will significantly reduce the values of the property of this neighborhood. And I don't know if it was Andrea or Ryan, but it clearly states on the front of the staff report that planning and zoning has spoken with the city assessor, and this person feels that this replat will not negatively affect the values of the property in question. So I apologize, that was long-winded, but I think there was a bias here, kind of an unfair bias. I understand they live there now, they're residents obviously, but I think there's more stakeholders here that haven't had a voice, so that's all I have, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, hearing from your side of it. So I just want to give anybody out and, oh, we got one more.
Can I give this after? I put my notes on the back. I'm Todd Ramage, and I apologize for a couple of things here. I don't have my glasses. I wasn't anticipating speaking, but you brought up a couple issues that I guess I have to, yeah, I heard entitlement a few times, and that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. There's nobody in this cul-de-sac that I think is entitled to anything. What we're frustrated with is I have a $700,000 or $800,000 investment in that property, 2 doors down. I'm seeing a lot that's 33,000 square feet get cut into a lot that's 14,000 square feet. The only lot that's anywhere close to that size right now is the Muslar's house, but that's a residual lot left over from the dike that wasn't platted as that small lot. There's the other lots, 33,000 square foot lots, can be divided into 19 and 14. Smallest lot there right now is 17. All the other lots are 21,000 to over 30,000 square feet. So it is going to, in my opinion, it is going to hurt the values. I've been there for 15 years. That lot's been there. It's been there as one lot. The reason it's been there for so long is because she was going to build on it. And then, I don't want to go down at all, but I started taking the list and ended up with the card full. So, and I want to try and keep it real brief. I'll do my best. We got 10, 12 neighbors that agree on something. You know how hard it is to get 10 or 12 people to agree on anything? We agree that it's not a positive thing for our street. Whether or not it meets the zoning compliance, I don't know. There's lots on the golf course that are 20-something thousand square feet. Can I divide that into 2 or 3 lots? Because I could, but nobody's done it. And there's a reason nobody's done it, because that wouldn't help that neighborhood. I bet you that people would raise holy heck if they tried to do it. And if that's an opportunity, let me know, because we have a lot out there. And I bet you if I come back in front of the zoning and try and get that thing divided in half, so I can turn to cut my cost down, so I can build something bigger to save $100,000 on the half of the lot that I parcel off, I'll do it. There's 5, 6 other lots out there on the golf course that are sitting empty. I'm sure they'd be interested to know that that's what's going to happen. But this is not what our neighborhood expected. As far as keeping it clean, I've kept it clean over there a lot, actually. I used to, for Sue, I used to actually take care of her tennis courts, used to clean it up, used to do the trimming and all that. That's neither here nor there. The covenants is a legal issue. I understand that. At the time we put the letter together, we had just heard about it. We had a real quick turnaround. We had to get something that we could all sign. We put some data in there. We put the restrictive covenant data in there. I understand the city's position 100%. They can't enforce restrictive covenants. So if it goes past this and it goes past the city council, then it's up to us as neighbors to do what we want to do civilly, which would be to enforce the covenants, which we believe are still in place. We don't believe that they've expired. That's where we can hire attorneys to fight that out, if it gets to that. But it's not a personal issue. I met with Nicole. She came over and talked to us. Very nice. That's not the issue. The issue is the integrity of what we thought we had in that neighborhood and what's there, and protecting our investments.
Thank you. You know, the one way we've done this, how many times, you know, as far as different things go, and it's sad every time. It doesn't get better. You know, we've had people that buy a house and there's a field across from them. They say, well, we thought there'd be a field here forever. Well, things change, things grow, and that's tough to see when you're in that driver's seat. And I understand restrictive covenants, as I have a neighborhood that had them too, and watched them end, and nobody knew they ended, and all of a sudden people are building right up to the road. It's a hard pill to swallow. Any other, how about in Zoom world, Andrea? Is there?
I'm hoping Brad will pull up the participants.
You know, and we're going to kind of keep this moving, not to keep rehashing that. I think we know both sides' feeling at this time. So we're looking for new information or enlightenment on something, not to rehash what's been gone. I think both sides are trying to be as fair to each other as they can, and I appreciate that. So how do I know? I don't...
Yeah, if anybody raises hands, then we'd see them, otherwise,
Yeah, in the
I
back?
have one thing to add after hearing our potential new neighbors' information. Again, Amy Dowlam, 4706 River Oak Circle. You came to my house and you spoke to my husband and you were dishonest.
Say, ma'am, that we don't...
He was
we're not a
dishonest.
judge and a
He
jury
is
here.
coming up here and saying that he's very,
Yeah.
very factual. He was dishonest with my husband. He told my husband he plans to build, but he did not say anything about building on the other lot. So if he's going to try to use what my husband said in agreement with what he was saying, he was not honest. Because my husband said, yes, we would love to have you. We're not terrible people. We would love to have him in the neighborhood on one house. He was dishonest with my husband. And so everything that he's saying here today is not honest. I just wanted to put that into the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody out in TV land? I'm not seeing any, and if I don't see any or hear any or have a way of seeing any, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring this back to commission.
Real quick, for Zoom folks, there is no hand raising for the Zoom feature, so we would ask at this time if any neighbor out on Zoom, if you would just start speaking.
Good enough for me.
doesn't look like anybody else unmuted even to speak.
Doesn't sound like anybody else, so I'll close the public hearing. We'll bring it back to the commission. What say ye?
Steve, this is Megan. I have a question.
Thanks, Megan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious why, if you could ask the potential owner why he wouldn't choose a lot that fits his needs a little bit better rather than dividing this lot, because it looks like he's interested in a smaller lot, and that's not what's offered in this neighborhood. So is there not another lot in the city of Grand Forks that he could build his house that is closer to the size that he's looking for?
Would you mind addressing that question?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I guess what our intention was to send our kids to Kelly School. My wife went there. We feel it's important. We like that area of town. We've looked at lots further south. I was trying to purchase a lot that backed up to Belmont. That was also in the Kelly School District. But I think anyone who's done some shopping around town lately can attest that if you'd like to be in the Kelly School District, you would need to purchase an existing home. And again, I think there's some opinion there from Miss Sandy that on the question of smaller lots or lots that don't fit. I would mention again, I guess city code would determine that. So, thank you.
Thanks. I would just like to throw in here too that perhaps I do have an opinion. Some of the neighbors have an opinion, but the potential buyer has also solicited his opinions, and I think that this is kind of how we come together, is that we all have an opinion on how this should be. So I guess I thought it was more of a question than an opinion, because you're trying to purchase a large lot and split it.
Right.
So,
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dismiss your question as an opinion. The opinion in there was that you mentioned a lot that would fit me better, or that I'm trying to produce what may be a smaller lot. The word smaller is relative, and,
smaller than the current lot that was platted. And I have forever been a big supporter of people not needing to worry about what's popping up next door, and having a little bit of consistency.
Sure.
And I feel like this neighborhood has been there for a very long time, and I understand that that's a fabulous lot, but I do feel like if that's what you want, you should buy it as it has been intended, as the neighbors intended, as the city intended when that was platted. And so with that, Steve, I don't know if anyone else has something to add.
I guess I'd like to add one more thing. I forgot about it, and as I sat down, I thought about it. I was struggling, I guess, this whole time. Obviously that my seller has a price here and I'm trying to work within my means here. I did offer a portion of this property for sale to Mr. Musler. We did text back and forth. I inquired with him if he had any time to visit about it. He was out of town, so we talked through text message. Mr. Musler reminded me he's not trying to purchase property. He's just trying to keep the integrity of what's there. But his offer came in short, I guess, from my viewpoint. I offered a price and I exposed myself and went well and beyond what I was willing to pay for the lot I'm trying to keep. So I think that's an important point. I did reach out to Mr. Musler to try to come to an agreement and to sell a portion to him, but it wasn't important enough to pay more or to preserve it. So I think that's an important point as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Matichak, are you ready for a
Can I
motion?
just respond to
Yeah.
that comment, please? I'll keep it very brief.
I mean, we can't keep going on the hearsay stuff back and forth, I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, so just a clarification, I reached out, again, someone mentioned earlier about developer and residents trying to work together. That was exactly what I was trying to do.
Yep.
And again, I don't want more grass to mow, more trees to maintain, but in the best interest of the neighborhood, I did. And we couldn't agree on a price. Now, that's really what it came down to. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear that I wasn't lowballing or anything.
I think we all took it as that, and that's every day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't buy a car the other day, we couldn't agree on a price, right? Mr. Matichak, sorry.
I'll test the waters here. I make a motion to deny the request.
Mr. Reichert,
Second.
further discussion? Mr. Budke, did you raise your hand, sir? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I empathize with the developer here. I think this would be, I guess I see it as in the city's interest here that that this lot is developed in a like the most efficient way here. So it's not that I don't. I'm not listening or I haven't heard any of the other arguments here, but I think that this would be a shame, and I don't really understand, frankly, what grounds we would throw this out on. I haven't seen anything that says that this is like non-compliant as proposed. So if that's the motion, I guess I'll vote against it.
Thank you, Mr. Budke. Mr. Reichert?
Yeah, I don't want to flog the dead horse here, but I think it's important for everyone involved here to understand the rationale, certainly in where I'm coming from, and Mr. Budke, to answer your question. People are entitled to rely on plats. We are a planning organization as much as we are a zoning organization. And if I've learned one thing about this, being on this committee for as long as I have, it's that people really do wonder what is going to happen around me, and they care what is going to happen around me. And it's our job to make sure that when people decide how they're going to use land in this city, that we have some input into it. We are not simply a check to make sure that all of the boxes are checked and that everything is compliant with the code. I mean, that is what we have a planning department for. That's what we have the great staff that we have to do. What our job is to do is to plan. And I don't think that anyone should take a plat lightly when we approve it. And when we have a plat that comes in and people have an idea, we spend a lot of time looking at that, and staff spends a lot of time looking at that. People who are buying in that area spend a lot of time looking at that. And I think people are entitled to rely on that. And that's exactly what we have here. So yes, I don't disagree that this meets the technical requirements of the city, but that's not where our inquiry ends. Our inquiry ends on what is the best plan and what is fair to the people who are going to be most affected by this. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of the parties here. I understand the arguments, but as far as I'm concerned, and I hope that developers looking at this understand that when there's a plat before us, the plat, you better come to us with a good reason to change that plat. And I will also say it is, you know, somewhat significant to me that the owner's not here today and we haven't heard from the owner. But certainly, consistency is important. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Reichert. Any further discussion? It's a sticky one we're in today, to say the least. Well, all those in favor of denying the plat request signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Did you get everybody? Okay. With that, I guess the plat is denied at this point.
I'll just remind everybody before they get up and leave that this does go to City Council on February 16th for final action.
And they can overturn us very easily.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, they can overturn us. So, with that. Okay. Item 3.2.
I'm the bad guy. You need that, huh?
Okay, item 3.2, public hearing, fast track, replat of Lot C, Block 1, Edgewood Village, first re-subdivision.
Miss Edwardson.
All right, good evening. We're switching gears and looking at a different development. 47th Avenue South is to just the south end, 20th Street off to the west. This complex here is the Edgewood Assisted Living Facility that's currently under construction. What's being proposed tonight is the platting of a twin home development just in this area here.
Well, we cleared those people out of here.
Apparently I can't talk and run the screen at the same time, so sorry. Part of the question or the purpose of the replat is to, this will be supplemental to the larger Edgewood Assisted Living Complex is what I'm trying to get at. Right now, these would be rented out, potentially sold in the future to those with spouses, family members associated into the main assisted living complex so that they're close by and able to visit frequently. So with that, this would establish a private road which would connect off to the larger complex. North is off to the left, by the way, so you kind of have to reorient it yourself with the map drawing. But we'd be looking at the twin home development, a private development. With that, there was a note in the staff report, if you read it, that the turnaround option for this lane does fall onto a separate property. That does fall beyond this plat. It will be dedicated as a separate easement document, but we wanted to include it here to show the intent of how the site will function. So with that, I can answer any questions. The subsequent item is also the zoning that establishes amends for this twin home development, which gets into setbacks, side yards, pretty standard things. So can certainly talk about them together if you'd like, or can separate them however you wish to move forward.
Okay, we do have a public hearing with this. Not seeing a big stampede, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to step up and address item 3.2, do so at this time. Or on Zoom. Seeing or hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Any questions for Andrea, any motions, any thoughts? This is the kind of the concept drawing we saw before.
Correct.
So this is redesigning the northwest section of it.
Correct.
But I might have missed part of that.
They had future plans for future developments. Earlier, we brought in the assisted living because that was the main driver originally. As things get forward, they're getting their feet under there and coming with how these different things are going to support and assist that main facility, this twin home development being one of those. Something else may come in the future of the existing lots that are still unplatted, but yes.
Mr. Reichert, I didn't have your mic screen up.
Andrea, does 45th Avenue just dead end there in the in the right, in the bottom right?
Yes, it does. So right now, it's Park District owned. Yes, it does.
But it's not, we aren't planning, are we planning on putting a road there?
No, I don't believe we have any intention of doing that. The parking lot that's just directly to the north of it kind of functions.
Right.
It's only going to support the Park District, and I should say that. That parking lot will never connect to this development for a thoroughfare or cross-section or anything like that. That won't happen. I anticipate we'll be coming forward with a vacation request for this area of the Park District at some point. It's just not something we have at this immediate time.
I'm going to move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert. Second. Second by Mr. Lunsky. Any further discussions? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications and preliminary approvals.
Item 4-1, ordinance to amend zoning map to Southern Estates PUD Amendment Number 16, replat of Lot C, Block 1, Edgewood Village re-subdivision located at 1881 44th Avenue South.
Okay, so this one is the same area, would be for the same twin home development, just establishing the zoning parameters for the lot. As stated in your staff reports, it would be a 75% impervious, 8 units per acre, and then setbacks throughout. Can certainly answer any questions.
Okay, no public hearing on this one, it's right to us. Mr. Reichert?
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert.
I'll second.
I believe that was Mr. Kuhn seconding that.
Absolutely, second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimously passes. 4-2.
Plat of Memorial Stadium re-subdivision located at the 2600 to 2300 block of 2nd Avenue North.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. So this is the Memorial Stadium. Many of you probably heard about some of the tax incentive projects that have come through. This is one of them. It's the west side of the Memorial Stadium. There's going to be a development going in this location. And at the same time, the surveyor actually worked with UND, and we're thankful for both because they're coming through and actually cleaning up the plat going all the way over to ERC. It's going to kind of clean things up in that area, so thanks to Steve for doing that as well. There was one other item on the plat, so you kind of see a swath through this southwest corner easement. There is a piece going through there. We're still working with them. The easement that goes along the south and west may enlarge. It's still, so that may happen before final at City Council, but I just wanted to make you aware that we're working with them on where there is a line that cuts through this area here, and making sure it gets away from the building, and then if it does need to be moved, getting it completely out of the way and down in this area here is the eventual location. So that's where we north or south meets north in that area. So with that, we'll entertain any other questions, and this is going to be back before us next month.
Many times.
Yep.
Anything from the commission? Mr. Reichert?
Ryan, are you having trouble getting them to agree to what you want? Because since we've given them a couple $100,000, I would think they would be a little more willing to negotiate.
Negotiations have gone actually quite well. It's just been a location where it is, and I do have to point out that in terms of couple $100,000, I guess I will have to state that's the increment. So in this case, as always, we'll still be seeing the planning portion of this, so there's likely a PUD coming, but this right now today doesn't receive any taxes, and the plan is after those expire, the city will be getting, and the other taxing entities will be receiving tax benefits on this property. So
I'm just asking if you need any help from us with your negotiations.
Nope, no, it's been going very well.
Okay. I would move approval then.
Moved by Mr. Reichert.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Kuhn. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. I guess we have a very short report from the planning department.
Well,
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, I got it. So the one thing I want to do is, before we get started here, Brandon Baseflug, who's the new inspections head, the created position, he's here as well. I want to introduce him to everybody. He'll be probably coming to these meetings potentially, but I'll let Brandon kind of introduce himself. And
Well, President Wasvik, members of the commission, thanks for having me. I know some of you guys, worked with some of you guys in the past, but just wanted to introduce myself, and Ryan and I will both give kind of a report. We put together a written testimony, and Ryan was kind enough to read it to the committee. When did we do that? Last Thursday, I think. But Bev's still going to be involved. She's still online. Bev's the expert in, the zoning code and things of that nature that she's still going to be utilizing. Mine's a complete new position, as inspections is now a department rather than a division of engineering. So we're going to continue to operate the same way we have in the past, just with another layer. And I just want to, again, introduce myself. I'm here to help you guys in which way I can. Probably lean on you guys for some questions, but I have Ryan to really lean on, and he can lean on you guys, but however I can help. And then with that being said, I think I can start with House Bill 1222. You may or may not know, you have it in your packet. You can see our testimony. Our legislative committee as a city met, about a month ago, I think, when we were first introduced to this bill. We analyzed it. This was a bill that went through last biennium as well, virtually the same. You'll hear on the radio that we added this, It's actually a local lawmaker that proposed the bill, but it does nothing but tie our hands as city staff, potentially tie your guys' hands in making decisions. It's really a vague bill, and we already have it in our ordinances. We don't, we call our non-conforming, he's talking about non-conforming structures. We talk about non-conforming uses, which identify structures, or structures on lots, so on and so forth. We have a pretty good process already put into place. Ryan and I, before we testified, or I guess as we were waiting to testify, talked about, has anything really been denied? And just as this body does, we try to work our best with everybody. We will work our best with everybody to make it happen. That's why we're opposing this bill. The city council is opposing this bill, but it's important to share it with you guys and answer any questions if you have any questions on the bill. So with that being said, thanks for having me. I'll come to the meetings and whatever you need from me, I'm happy to help. So, Ryan?
Thank you very much. Great to meet you too.
Yeah, and I just want to bring it, we brought up the bill, I think Frank asked last time, and there may be some other future ones too we're going to be bringing before you, just to kind of let you know what's going on with the legislature. So it was a good point last time, so we wanted to make sure that was there for you. So with that, we'll certainly answer any questions as well, and we'll let you know for those on the land use subcommittee, looking at March 8th is going to be the date for that meeting. You'll be getting a save the date here shortly. So
thank you for that. All right. Other business? None? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjournment.
Second. Moved by Mr. Kuhn, seconded by Mr. Lunsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.